Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization. We're in Coldwater Canyon taking a look around for Bigfoot, and I'm going to point the camera down towards the North Ogden Trout Farm. There was a Bigfoot incident at this trout farm, and the neighborhood around this trout farm has had a lot of Bigfoot activity, and along with the Bigfoot activity, people from this area hear what they think are Bigfoot vocalizations coming from the canyon. Coldwater Creek runs out of Coldwater Canyon and runs right down to the trout farm. This is where they get their water for the trout farm, so it really makes sense that the Bigfoot's following the creek down to the trout farm to get food once in a while. Some of the residents have had sightings where the Bigfoot actually looks into the windows of their home at night. During the same time frame that they had the Bigfoot incident at the trout farm, there was a lot of Bigfoot sightings down in the valley that I just had the camera pointed. Along the Weber River, along the Ogden River. The Standard Examiner, which is the local newspaper, has many articles of people that reported Bigfoot sightings during this point in time. I'm going to take you guys down to the trout farm here in just a moment and take a look around the trout farm and tell you about the trout farm Bigfoot incident. This is Kelly Shaw reporting. This is my hometown. This is where I'm from. When this trout farm incident became public, it spread like wildfire. I remember it very well. I was a kid interested in Bigfoot, and it was then that it dawned on me, with all the Bigfoot activity that was going on, that I wasn't going to have to travel to the Pacific Northwest to search for Bigfoot. I could do it right here in my hometown. I'm going to go over an interview that Slade from Utah Bigfoot Blogspot did with the former owner of the trout farm that had this incident. And here goes the report. Slade writes in his blog, he interviews the former owner in North Ogden, Utah in 2010. I had been dying to visit the Cold Springs trout farm for about a year. I had heard there were a lot of different reports from this area, so I had to visit and find out what was happening there. I met the former owner, a spry 71-year-old, and we struck up a conversation. He quickly opened up and offered up the story. I will share it here. Make sure you go check out this story on Slade's blog. I'll leave a link to the blog and the story in the description down below. Around 1980, there were many experiences in North Ogden. This man who owned the fish farm told a story about how he came out to feed the fish one morning and saw quite a sight. All over the grass next to the pond, he found dozens of dead trout. Some had their heads bitten off, but most were just laying there dead. Intact, just dead. He walked around to find out who had been stealing his fish and found several large 14-inch long tracks in the soft grass and mud. He said that you could see two footprints right next to each other, as if the creature had stood next to the pond and looked at the fish. When I was visiting there and stood next to the pond, all the fish immediately came up next to the shore, and I was told they do this because they are used to being fed. The temptation was apparently too great for the Bigfoot, because I told you, you could see where he jumped down into the pond and walked around, and he had disturbed the moss on the bottom of the pond. It was apparent that the Bigfoot started scooping up fish and tossing them on the lawn. I thought the idea was pretty far-fetched myself, but when I saw how dense the fish were in the pond, literally hundreds, maybe 1,000 or more, it was easy to see it would have been possible, especially if you consider that a creature named Bigfoot could probably also be named Big Hand, using those big hands to scoop up the fish and throw them out of the pond. The owner at the time, he called the fishing game. They showed up and cast a 14-inch track that he likes to show off to this day. This is only one of the several personal stories that he had, which are part of a larger series of occurrences that have happened to nearly everyone who has lived in that neighborhood throughout the years. I had heard that the Coldwater Canyon was a hot spot for Utah Bigfoot activity, but little had prepared me for the fascinating stories that were told to me while I was here. Here are a couple of comments on the blog by people that have lived and visited the area. The first comment is from Michael. I live right above the fish farm and have heard this story many times. Some nights you can hear the dogs barking for miles, then in 1 second they all go quiet. You should take a hike up Coldwater Canyon. It's beautiful and a quiet hike, almost too quiet. It's quite creepy actually, and it feels as if you were being watched the whole time. The next comment is made by a guy named Trent. I lived just above the trout farm at the time this happened, in the early 80s. I remember this event very well, along with several other sightings and events. For a period of about 3 weeks, there were sightings and reports of the Bigfoot every single night in the community. We even had our own experience on a night when my brothers and I were sleeping outside in a tent. The Bigfoot laid down on the tent, across my shoulder and leg, to hide from a light on the side of our house, which was turned on from the inside. I have been following Bigfoot stories my entire life ever since. That last statement reminds me a lot of Derek Wright's Bigfoot sighting during the same time frame. He is one of the co-founders of Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization. It was his Bigfoot sighting in the same community during the same time that turned him into a Bigfoot enthusiast, and it is one of the reasons why he helped create Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization. I will put his sighting report in the description of this video, along with one of our driving roundtables through the community where we talk about Bigfoot and the Bigfoot phenomenon that goes on inside of our community. I hope you guys enjoyed checking out the trout farm where this Bigfoot incident happened, and the surrounding neighborhood has had quite the experience of Bigfoot. Possibly the trout farm brings the Bigfoot down into the community once in a while for, quote, an easy meal. I hope you guys enjoyed checking out the Coldwater Canyon where the stream comes from. A lot of people in the community think that's where the Bigfoot comes down off the mountain, is through Coldwater Canyon. Follow that creek right down into the community, right down to the trout farm. People claim that they hear Bigfoot vocalizations coming out of that canyon at night. And, you know, in this day and age, you know, with television, internet, just about everybody has heard some of the more famous Bigfoot vocalizations that have been recorded and put on TV and everything. So when someone hears a Bigfoot vocalization that's similar to that, they're thinking, you know, hey, is that Bigfoot? So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed a look around. We're going to keep on squatching. You keep on watching.